The year is 1325. Your neighbor saw you collecting herbs at dawn, and by sunset, the whole village whispers you're in league with the devil. What simple daily habit would have marked you for death in medieval times? These are the brutal reasons no one, least of all you, could last a single day as a so-called medieval witch. Dawn breaks over the village. The rooster crows, and your neighbor is already whispering. Did you forget to cross yourself before stepping outside? Did you mutter an old family charm while milking the cow? The smallest misstep at daybreak could spark the rumors that end your life. After last season's failed harvest, the village needs someone to blame. The priest warned about hidden enemies in Sunday's sermon. Eyes follow you at the well, tongues quiet when you approach. They remember how your cow gives more milk than others, how your cough cleared up suspiciously fast, how you argued with the miller's wife 3 days before her chickens stopped laying. Coincidence means nothing here, only patterns that point to the unnatural. Parish priests stand as the first gatekeepers between harmless eccentricity and dangerous deviation. That humming tune your grandmother taught you, best keep it behind closed doors. The strange mark on your doorpost to ward off illness, scrub it away before Father Thomas sees it. His whisper to the bishop becomes a shout to the magistrate. By mid-morning, you've already committed 3 suspicious acts: picking herbs with your left hand, refusing to share your bread with a beggar who might be testing you, and showing too much knowledge about which plants heal burns. The stakes of nonconformity aren't social awkwardness, they're survival itself. In this world, standing out doesn't make you special, it makes you suspect. Your loaf comes out of the oven misshapen and darker than usual. In today's world, it's a baking fail. In 1325, it's a sign the devil guided your hands. One lumpy loaf, and suddenly you're a sorcerer. Neighbors eye your bread with suspicion. Why does the crust have that strange pattern? Is that an accidental handprint or a hidden sigil? Medieval kitchens were breeding grounds for superstition, where the rising of dough carried the same mystery as the waxing moon. Good bread comes from good women, the village saying goes. So, what does bad bread reveal? When the baker's daughter fell ill last autumn after eating your gift of rye bread, few remembered the moldy grain the whole village shared. What they recall is your argument with her father the week before. What you don't know, what nobody knows yet, is that the ergot fungus growing on spoiled grain causes hallucinations, convulsions, and gangrenous limbs. Science won't discover this for centuries. For now, it's easier to blame the baker than the bread itself. With famine always one poor harvest away, food carries power, and those who prepare it carry suspicion. As your neighbors examine your misshapen loaf, they're not just judging your baking skills, they're weighing your soul. Midday finds you marking tallies on a piece of bark, counting eggs, or days until the full moon. A passing friar sees you scratching strange symbols. Can't read Latin? That's evidence enough. In the medieval mind, any writing you can't explain becomes a dark pact with Satan. Literacy rates hover below 10%, with Latin reserved for clergy and nobility. Your ability to make even simple marks sets you dangerously apart. Those innocent egg counts, clearly a record of successful curses. The moon phase tracking, obviously a schedule for midnight Sabbaths. The line between common household symbols and occult sigils blurs through fearful eyes. The mark you use to show which jars contain, which herbs look suspiciously like the strange letters in the priest's Bible. Knowledge itself becomes evidence against you, especially knowledge held by those who shouldn't have access to it. Clerical courts have seen these marks before, or so they claim. Records show confessions of witches admitting to keeping detailed ledgers of their evil deeds, though strangely, these confessions sound identical from France to Germany to England. The template of witch behavior spreads faster than actual literacy. As the friar reports your suspicious record-keeping to local authorities, your fate may already be sealed. The church notary stands ready to record a confession you haven't made yet, for symbols you never meant to use. By afternoon, the witchfinder arrives. Word travels fast when there's payment involved. A dull needle decides your fate as the notorious pricker test begins. The witchfinder commands the room, displaying his special needles to the gathered crowd. The devil marks his own, he announces, and Satan's mark feels no pain. The scientific principle behind this test? None whatsoever. The search begins for spots on your body that don't bleed or cause pain when pricked. Every mole, scar, or birthmark becomes suspect. The small spot on your shoulder where you once had a boil, that's where the pricker focuses. When you flinch less than expected, perhaps from shock or numbing fear, murmurs ripple through the onlookers. These traveling witch prickers earn handsome fees, often more than a laborer's monthly wage for a single successful finding. Their economic incentive to discover witches needs no explanation. Some carry special retractable needles, ensuring the witch's mark never bleeds when tested. The psychological terror of this public examination, stripped, prodded, and displayed before your community, breaks many before the physical torture begins. Elderly women, widows, the disabled, all make perfect targets, often unable to defend themselves against these painful examinations. As blood finally beads from the needle's 10th insertion, the pricker frowns. But wait, there's that unusual birthmark below your ear. The needle approaches again, and this time, you're too exhausted to react properly. "Aha!" he shouts, evidence discovered. The afternoon brings a crowd to the village pond. Float, and you're guilty. Sink, and you're dead. The water ordeal awaits, a twisted baptism where innocence and death share the same watery embrace. They bind your thumbs to your opposite toes, creating a human ball they can easily submerge. The water, they explain, is pure, a divine element that rejects evil. If you're innocent, it welcomes you into its depths. If guilty, you'll float like oil on water, rejected by God's creation itself. The theological foundation seems sound to medieval minds. Water accepted Christ at his baptism, so surely it knows the difference between good and evil souls. Nobody questions why a floating body, a natural physical response, indicates supernatural guilt. The paradox hangs unexamined. Prove your innocence by drowning. What the crowd doesn't understand is the simple physics of buoyancy. A bound body with clothes trapping air might float regardless of moral purity. Yet some victims sink immediately, especially when weighted down by sodden woolen garments. The thin line between accusation and execution becomes a matter of fabric and air bubbles. As they lower you into the frigid pond, hypothermia sets in within minutes. Your body temperature plummets as the crowd watches for signs. Will you float like a witch or sink like the innocent? And if you sink, will they pull you up before death claims its false victory? The records show many proven innocent only after they've stopped breathing. The sun reaches its peak as they drag you, half drowned and shivering, to face another test. Even your lunch can seal your doom. Before you sits the korsned, a cursed morsel of bread and cheese, blessed by the priest and meant to choke the guilty. The logic follows an ancient belief. God controls all bodily functions, including swallowing. The innocent will consume the blessed food without trouble, while the guilty, their throats constricted by divine judgment, will choke on truth itself. Local cunning men preside alongside clergy for this ritual, their position in the community reinforced by each successful verdict. The bread is often mixed with ashes or made uncommonly dry, practically ensuring difficulty swallowing. Your parched throat, raw from screaming during the ducking, hardly stands a chance. The onlookers hold their breath as you attempt to choke down the dry, ashen bread. Every cough, every hesitation becomes further evidence. Your difficulty swallowing after hours without water seems supernatural rather than biological to the watching crowd. Stomach ailments, common in an age of questionable food safety, become the final verdict. If you vomit the korsned, you might as well have signed a confession. If you keep it down but fall ill later, witnesses will remember your trial by ingestion, as the moment your body revealed the truth your lips denied. Evening approaches, and the village women gather at the communal cooking area. One overheard recipe equals a death sentence in this cauldron of whispers. The steam rising from cooking pots carries words that burn hotter than any fire. She knew too much about easing the miller's wife's labor pains. Have you noticed how she gathers herbs during the dark of the moon? My cousin said she refused to let the priest bless her garden last spring. Women's networks built around shared labor and knowledge become double-edged swords, the same communal wisdom that preserves life, which plants heal rashes, how to ease a difficult birth, now endangers those who know too much or too little. The growing tension between traditional midwives and university-trained physicians adds fuel to suspicion. Male doctors, with their latent texts and bloodletting theories, See village healers as competitors. When the physician's patient dies despite expensive treatments, but your neighbor's fever breaks after drinking your herbal tea, guess which outcome raises suspicion? The gender politics of skill sharing become deadly. Women with knowledge are dangerous, but women who withhold knowledge are equally suspect. Did you refuse to share your cheese-making technique because it's a family secret, or because it contains unnatural ingredients? The casual observation about your reluctance joins the growing pile of evidence against you. As the cauldrons bubble, so do the stories. By nightfall, your reputation has been seasoned with enough suspicion to make any defense taste bitter. Darkness falls, but sleep will not come. The longer you're chained in the village stocks, the louder the lies grow. What began as whispers has become a chorus of accusations echoing across the square. The wooden restraints grip your ankles and wrists, forcing your body into an unnatural bend. The stocks were never designed for comfort. Discomfort is the point. Medieval justice believes in public humiliation as both punishment and deterrent. Tonight, you serve as both cautionary tale and entertainment. Children throw rotting vegetables at your exposed face. Adults spit as they pass. Some stop to recount how their cow died after you looked at it strangely last month. Others remember encounters that never happened. Memory becomes malleable in the face of collective fear. The psychological damage cuts deeper than any physical harm. Former friends avert their eyes. Nobody speaks in your defense, afraid association might implicate them too. Witch-finding rarely stops with a single suspect. By morning, exposure to the elements has taken its toll. May nights remain cold in northern Europe, rain soaks your clothes, insects feast on skin you cannot scratch. Bodily functions must be managed where you sit, adding humiliation to discomfort. Dehydration and sleep deprivation bend your mind until reality itself seems uncertain. Was there perhaps something unusual about that herb you gathered? Did you unconsciously mutter some forbidden words? The stocks don't just break bodies, they break certainty itself, preparing you for the more formal questioning to come. Dawn's first light finds you in the questioning chamber. Confess, and maybe they'll stop. Maybe. The instruments laid out before you promise pain with mathematical precision. The thumbscrews come first, simple in design, but agonizing in effect. Metal plates crush your fingers with each turn of the screw. The interrogator begins gently, asking if you've ever seen the devil. Each denial earns another quarter turn. The human hand contains 27 bones, and each one can break. Next comes the strappado, a rope system that jerks your arms behind your back before hoisting you toward the ceiling. Your shoulders dislocate with a sickening pop. They lower you just long enough to regain sensation before raising you again. The interrogator suggests names of other witches. Anyone you name might earn you a moment's relief. The rack waits in the corner, medieval Europe's premier pain machine. Your ankles and wrists attached to rollers at opposite ends. Each turn stretches ligaments past their natural limit. The question is never if you'll confess, but when. In theory, judicial torture operates under legal limits. A physician might monitor to prevent death. A scribe records each answer. A priest offers salvation through confession. In practice, these safeguards crumble against the interrogator's zeal and the community's thirst for resolution. False confession cascades follow predictable patterns. One witch confession typically implicates 5 to 10 others. These newly accused name more, under similar duress. Some villages lose dozens of citizens to a single initial accusation. As your body reaches its breaking point, your mind surrenders to survival. You hear yourself confessing to impossible acts, flying through night skies, coupling with demons, poisoning wells. The words aren't yours anymore, but they satisfy the interrogator. For now, the pain stops. The verdict surprises no one. Execution scheduled, whether storm or sunshine. The final act of this tragedy begins at first light, when the pyre awaits. Why do many burnings begin at dawn? Practical reasons blend with symbolic ones. A full day allows time for the complete spectacle, from procession to sermon to execution. Morning executions draw larger crowds, fulfilling the public education component justice demands. And symbolically, darkness giving way to light mirrors the purification of society through elimination of evil. The economics of your death have been carefully calculated. Wood costs money, more for a hot, quick death, less for a slow, smoky one. Your status in the community and the nature of your crimes determine how much the village invests in your final moments. The rope around your neck might be a mercy, a chance to die of strangulation before flames reach you, or another expense deemed unnecessary. The spectacle transforms into moral theater. The priest delivers a sermon about the dangers of straying from God's path. Your confession, extracted under torture, receives public reading. Every impossible detail, the flying, the demonic pacts, the midnight Sabbaths, reinforces the narrative of evil purged from the community's midst. Pardons at this stage are vanishingly rare. Records show occasional last-minute reprieves, usually for the politically connected or when new evidence emerges that cannot be ignored. More common are posthumous pardons, generations later, when the fever of witch hunting breaks against the shores of changing times. As smoke rises into the dawn sky, the village breathes collective relief. The crops might grow better now, illness might retreat, children might sleep safely, until the next unexplained misfortune demands another explanation, and another witch,